Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are specifically going to talk about its greatest competitor, Daggerheart. Daggerheart really is fascinating. I think there's really something very special happening with Daggerheart. And today, what I wanted to talk about is Daggerheart's card decision and why, and how Daggerheart is ignorant of tabletop role playing game history and how they are running headlong into a brick wall, right? And are going to smash their nose, in my humble opinion. All right, so one, Daggerheart has these cards in the game, but it's not integral to its design. It's completely. It literally is like, hey, we spent all this time on these cards. It's ready to use. You guys are gonna have. You're really gonna enjoy it. And somebody's like, I don't want to use the cards. They're like, fine. It's really not necessary. And so my point is, like, you're trying to beat Dungeons and Dragons. You're trying to build a tabletop role playing game to compete with the. It's printed on the cover, the greatest tabletop role playing game in the world, right? And you're spending a huge amount of time and resources on something that doesn't matter. And here's the kicker: if they made a card-based tabletop role-playing game, that could be huge. It could be profitable. It could really, literally innovate. No one has ever done it. No one has ever fully committed to a tabletop role-playing game where everything is on cards. The rules, every piece of equipment, every player option, every dungeon master action. Like, nobody's ever done it, ever. It has never been done, right? And here's the kicker: is I think it would work if Critical Role could find their pair, right, and actually make the hard choice and say, we are going all in on the card aspect of Daggerheart. And the reason they won't do it is a lot of people will say, no, I'm out, right? And the thing is, I even think a lot of people would be like, I'm out initially, right? But I think if Matthew Mercer was like, we're doing it, we're never going to print a book. Every piece of information for Daggerheart will come out on cards. The rules will be on cards. The classes will be on cards. The feats will be on cards. The equipment will be on cards. The Dungeon Master's elements are on cards, right? I think Mercer would make something that was genuinely unique and different than Dungeons and Dragons, and it could work. It could actually be a real threat to Dungeons and Dragons. But the cards right now are like, oh, take it or leave it. We don't care. Now, this is interesting though. This was done. There was a tabletop role-playing game that ran things where the cards were integral to the play. And it was the Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing, and I believe it was the 4th edition of it. I own it. It is stunning. It is beautiful. It is very compelling. It has lots of little tokens, and it has cards that cannot be removed from the game until they remove them from the game, right? Like, they actually later went and printed all the card material in hardbacks, right? So and one of the things that really is shocking to me is this is Spencer Stark being fully unaware of the lessons of that game, right? And the reality is that game made cards absolutely necessary to its play until 2 years out. It was like, oh, we give up. Nobody's buying in on this. Right? But it also mixed a rules guide and cards, right? Whereas we've never had a tabletop role-playing game that is all cards, even the rules, every aspect of his cards, and there are no books. And Mercer is missing an opportunity. Matthew Mercer, I'm telling you right now, my name is Scott Garibay. If you want to beat Dungeons and Dragons, make this cards only. Make this cards only. It will work. It will be unique. It will be different and will create an experience that cannot be gotten on Dungeons and Dragons, right? And what's wild is, if you have to print those rules on cards, it will force a rules-light system. And people want a rules-light system. Right now, they're calling your 400-page game a rules-light system. That is not a rules-light system, but there is a real opportunity. So honestly, Matthew Mercer, do the right thing. Make this game, make Daggerheart right now, cards only. And there are no books. The entire thing, this will be a bold move. It will be an act of courage, and it will put you into actual competition with Dungeons and Dragons. Now, is Daggerheart in competition with Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, from a cultural perspective. Yes, from an intellectual perspective. Yes, from an emotional perspective, right? But not from a real perspective. Right now, as printed in the player's handbook, in the play test, without major dramatic or dynamic changes, Daggerheart will have exactly the same experience that Candela Obscura, a DOA release, dead on arrival, right? So, but Daggerheart still contains the hope of Matthew Mercer, right? And he is a ball of hope. And if you, Matthew, if you do the right thing, if you are innovative and courageous, you could beat Dungeons and Dragons. But if you don't take a swing, if you don't try anything real, it's not going to work. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less. What's important is when I hear your humble opinion. May God bless each and every one of you.